The past. A new and uncertain world.
Are you excited about this episode, Mary? I tried to do an X joke.
Excited. I was a little bit hesitant to do the X-Men prequels because the first two are considered, especially the second of the first two, are considered extremely good.
Yeah.
But then you really kind of get a lot of mixed feelings about
Absolutely.
the next two. So I was a little bit hesitant, but actually really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed going through the 4 movies over the week. It was quite fun, actually.
Yeah, it's definitely a divisive prequel series. I mean, is it even prequels?
I mean, when you look at what people have said, especially about Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, and then you actually sit down and watch them, it's really critical what people have said. I don't think they're quite that bad. But then everybody's got their own opinion, haven't they? So.
Yeah. And there's a lot of big fans of the source material, so it was never going to meet everybody's expectations of it. But yeah, so we're doing this episode really not just as a follow-up to our episode 28, I think, that feels like a long time ago, where we did the original trilogy, but also it's the 10-year anniversary of X-Men First Class.
Which just made me feel extremely old.
So what we're going to do is, we've not done one for a while, but we're going to do a quiz just to sort of break the ice and see how well we were paying attention.
I feel like I was, but I'm really worried about how stupid I'm going to sound.
I'm not sure either.
Quiz.
Just so everyone knows, we're doing X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past, X-Men Apocalypse, and X-Men Dark Phoenix. So I suppose without further ado, exciting quiz.
Let's quiz. So my first question from First Class is, what is the name of the girl in the pub with different coloured eyes?
I don't know.
I apologise in advance for these questions because it was very hard to make questions to this.
The name of the... they shook hands. Megan?
Unfortunately, that's not correct. Her name was Amy.
Oh, Amy went through my head as well. Never mind.
Okay, come on, hit me.
Okay, go on then. What is the name of the groovy mutation that causes someone to have 2 coloured eyes?
Oh, Jesus.
I believe there was a character called Amy. Don't quote me on that.
Oh, God, there's no way. I'm sure it was a long word. No, not a clue.
Nothing?
Something mitation, something hard to say, probably.
Not quite, no. It's heterochromia.
I had a feeling it began with a H, but I was never going to get that.
Afraid not. Well, I'm glad those questions went hand in hand.
Okay, what are Eric and Charles doing on the Lincoln Memorial steps?
Oh, first game of chess.
That's correct, they are playing chess.
Yay, 1 point. What number is on the Nazi coin given to Magneto in Auschwitz?
Jesus Christ.
That is incorrect.
39.
No, that's not right. The actual denomination it's 5 Reich marks. Or okay. I also would have given you the year 1934, which was on the coin as well.
See, I was thinking maybe a year, and I thought the beginning of the war, but no.
Good guess though. Yeah, I see where you were going with that. Just wrong.
What does Eric see that makes him calm before turning the satellite?
Ooh, I remember seeing inside his head at something to do with candles. There was some candles in a scene.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want like a specific event.
Yeah, like Hanukkah or something.
Yeah, Hanukkah, that's it.
Yeah. I'll give you the point because I'm not sure if it's a birthday or if it's like an event like Hanukkah, because I couldn't quite see from the candles properly, but yeah, you can have that one.
Don't know where I dug that out of my memory from, but I thought, I remember seeing a candle. Okay, last question for First Class. Who sang the featured song for X-Men First Class, which plays in the credits?
God, I don't know.
And I'll give you a few clues. So the music video had X-Men clips in it, and the artists also did a song for another film that Matthew Vaughn directed that you like.
It wasn't like someone like Take That or something, was it?
It is Take That.
It is not.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah, and they sang Rule the World for Stardust as well.
That's the only thing that got me going, because I love that's probably my favourite credits song of any credit song apart from Titanic,
Anyway,
obviously.
my clues are a bit too on the nose then. Never mind. Yeah, Take That. Plays in the credits. Okay.
So we're moving on to Future Past now.
Yeah.
So in the opening scene, what does Kitty say to the Sentinels before she disappears?
Too late, assholes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yay! I love points. What is on the T-shirt worn by Quicksilver when he's visited at his house, and when he goes to the Pentagon? He's still wearing it.
Jesus. I obviously don't pay attention. Is it a band?
It might be a band. Let's take that.
Let's not take
In the
that.
70s.
Let's not take that. Something like Rolling Stones or Pink Floyd, or go with Pink Floyd.
It is Pink Floyd.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, the
You are
glass prism.
really, really, really making this difficult.
No.
I really having to like scrape the depths for this.
Okay, next question. Oh, it's you.
It's me. It is me.
Slowest quiz we've ever done.
What year does Logan go back to? Nice easy one.
1973.
That's correct.
Yay. Okay, a post-credits scene depicts what event?
The building of the pyramid.
Yeah. I didn't know if you'd stick around for it.
Okay, so my last one for Days of Future Past is, what is on the license plate of the car Logan takes?
I remember even reading it and thinking, it's you something. You, and then a 4-letter word. Not my answer, but something like you suck or something like that. I'm going to go with you suck.
I'm going to give you half a point because it is you something. It's you lucky.
Ah, lucky.
So I'll give you half a point for that one.
Okay. Okay, so when Magneto breaks into the Department of Defense, there are 4 items in glass cases. What are 3 of them?
Oh, Jesus. There's his helmet.
Yeah.
It's something to do with the X-Men that died. The only thing I can think of is Havoc's chest plate thing. But
Yeah, that was
he didn't die. And a third thing. Well, I don't know, so I'm just going to go with like, is it like, what was her name? Angel?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Angel's
her
wings.
Wing. Yeah. Yeah, that's correct.
Oh, good.
The coin is in the other cabinet, but it's tiny compared to everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fine. 1
Oh,
point.
good. Oh, I'm quite pleased with that. Okay, so now we're going to move forward to Apocalypse. So, who planted the tree at Xavier's school, and how old were they when they did it?
Oh, took my question. It's his grandfather, and he planted it when he was 5. It's the same question. Never mind. But
Great minds think alike.
what name is Magneto living under at the beginning?
It's Henrik
Yeah,
something.
you can have Henrik.
Yeah, it's Henrik.
Yeah.
Is it begin with a G?
Yeah, like Gursky or something.
Gursky. Yeah, something like that.
That is correct. Okay.
Okay, name the 4 disciples that Apocalypse gathers.
Disciple. Horseman.
Yes.
Jesus. Magneto. And Storm. And a different angel. And Psylocke is the 4th one.
That's right.
What is Quicksilver eating when he notices the mansion is about to explode?
Oh, God, I have no idea. I can't remember. Oh, I don't know, chocolate bar?
I don't think I can give it to you.
No, that's alright, it's
I
fine.
don't think it's a Twinkie.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, that's not a chocolate bar.
Sorry.
That's okay. Okay, my last question then is, what is the very last shot of the film?
The danger room doors are closing on Charles's face.
That's right.
Yeah, and he's bald.
Yeah, very bald.
My last question from Apocalypse. What is Apocalypse's actual name?
Ah, Is it something Ra? What? Begin with an R.
Yeah, at one point
It's
he does
one
say
of
he's
the
got lots of
names.
names,
Yeah.
but this is the name that people would chant at him.
Does that begin with it? That had an S in it, didn't it?
Might be an S in that somewhere.
It was 2 words, I think. Nah, I don't know. It was foreign.
It'll be Egyptian, I imagine. Yeah. No, his real name is En Sabah Nur.
Yeah, I was never going to
Which
get
means
that.
the morning light, which is lovely.
Doesn't really match him.
Not really, no. Not really.
Okay,
Although he does
now
get his power from the sun, which is...
And now we're moving on to the last one, Dark Phoenix. So my first question is, what does Charles offer Jean as a metaphor for her gift?
Ooh, a pen!
It is a pen.
I like that metaphor. I think it works. It's a gift.
Yeah, it's very good.
How many astronauts were saved from the space shuttle?
It was either 5 or 7, I think. Because there was either 4 that he took out straight away, or 6, and then he went back for 1. Let's go with 5.
The answer I've got written is 6, because 6 of them get off the plane at the end. So I didn't count them as they were being saved, so I'm assuming there was only 6. So based on that, I'm going to say it's wrong, even though you might be right.
Okay,
Sorry.
well, linking to that question is, what is the name of the space shuttle carrying the astronauts?
Oh, is it Endeavour?
It is Endeavour.
Is it? Ah, that's a good shout. Just went mugger on that one. Just came out. What is the name of Jessica Chastain's character?
Her real name or the name of the alien that takes over?
I suppose the alien that takes over.
Vuk.
Vuk.
V-U-K.
Fuck's sake. Right.
I had to be careful with that one.
Vuk. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, sort of linking to that one as well then, is what is the name of the aliens that invade Earth?
I had to double check this because Captain Marvel was coming out at the same time. They had to change their plot, and I think it's the Skrull or the Skrulls.
That's not what I've got written down. That was not what I found. I think the Skrulls are the ones that are in that one. I think.
What's
sure
the
that's
answer
what
you've
they
got?
are, but I've got Dabari. D''Bari. They're a fictional alien
Dabari
race.
are a fictional.
I'm glad they're only fictional. Because they don't look very pleasant.
People also ask, are the Dabari Skrulls? Number 1, Dabari aren't Skrulls. I think maybe it was because they were too similar to
maybe.
Captain Marvel. Never mind.
Yeah.
You learn something new every day.
You do.
Who knew that Vuk was a Dabari? Okay. My last one? I don't even know. What is the name of the dog owned by Jessica Chastain's character?
Oh, Jesus. I've just been watching The Conjuring and all I can think of is the name of their dog.
It might be the same.
Nah, I don't think it is.
She shouts it a few times.
She does, yeah. But I just... and she said it so many bloody times as well. I don't know. Elmo.
Elmo.
Elmo, it'll do.
It's not far off Elmo. Luna. Luna.
Nah.
It's
I
not really
watched it frigging yesterday. I can't believe that.
Never mind. Okay, let's tally up these scores.
Matt, I've lost. I think it's pretty...
Not by a lot.
I think it's pretty clear.
So the scores at the end of the enormous quiz that was meant to be shorter than last time. You got 6 points, and I got 9.5 apparently, which I don't know how I did.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was obvious you were going to win that one.
I don't know. We were pretty level pegging. But anyway, let's crack on. So let's talk about X-Men First Class.
Yeah.
If anything, this is less of a prequel and more of an origin, which is kind of a
It's
prequel.
the ultimate origin story of the X-Men.
It's kind of like revealing things that we already knew and then showing how they got to where they became in the originals. But then also there's some bits that I think are introduced that we didn't know or that they've invented for this, which is mostly Charles and Mystique, Raven.
Yeah.
And they actually knew each other first.
Now, that leads me on to something that I don't like about the prequels. Now, obviously, we'll get on to other areas of it when we talk about Days of Future Past, but I just feel like when you look at the prequels, you're thinking, yeah, but that happens in the original, so how have they got this? Do you know what I mean? It makes you like question so much, which I don't like, because you're thinking, well, how was that possible? Because they didn't know each other in the original, and they don't act like they knew each other, and it's just it makes you question all these things.
It was the timeline starting to get a bit confusing, and I know other films later made it more so. But there were certain things that were created for this, and some of the stars they got for the film obviously made them feel like they had to have these as main characters. I think a lot of people weren't happy that Jennifer Lawrence was a main character.
I don't know. I mean, Jennifer Lawrence in the first few, she did have a lot to do, and that's good. But I don't. I mean, I suppose I count her as a main cast, but I think the first one's very much about Charles and Eric.
Yeah.
And I think they were superbly cast.
One thing I really liked about Eric's bit is the opening mirrors the first X-Men. The whole sequence is just shot for shot. And I think that's kind of good in a way, because I know a lot of people, myself included, were quite skeptical about, more films being done or, prequels being done. So I think that was really good in a way, because it was a familiarity, but then it continued on, past
it gave
where
you
we
a bit more.
Left the first time.
I really like Magneto's storyline. I think it's brilliant. It's very dark. It's bleak. There's a lot going on in there. It's a really important storyline to include in it. Very serious topic,
and it underpins everything that he's about.
Absolutely, how he is the way he is.
He's a complicated character, but it's all very simple. This is why he is the way he is. We get a bit more though in this, don't we? Because we get the character of, well, at the time he's something Schmidt, and then it's Kevin Bacon basically, who I don't usually like in things. But if I'm honest, I think this is his best acting I've seen, but I don't know if I like him.
Yeah, no, I'm a bit. I'll come to it later, but I'm mixed feelings about that.
Yeah, but it sets Magneto on this path, doesn't it? Of he turns into a bit of a Nazi hunter, globe-trotting around the world and killing them.
Totally understand that. I think I would do the same.
It makes complete sense. And then there's this revelation that the guy who killed his mum, caused all this pain for him, is actually a mutant himself, and it's a different kind of Nazi, a different kind of supremacy.
I was always a bit unsure about this. Was he a mutant, or did he create this power for himself? Because I feel like the fact that he was like doing so many experiments and stuff, maybe it was something he made himself into.
I don't know. If I'm honest, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, he saw mutants as superior. He had the same fundamental ideology that Magneto would have, but just different. So I guess he could have been all along. And he was just trying to recruit mutants so that he could... Obviously, he wanted to cause World War III in this film with the Cuban missiles and all that stuff. I'm not actually too sure. I have to say, though, and I will go on record saying this is my least favourite aspect of the film, is just the whole villain plotline. Yeah. I just don't really care.
It's not enough.
I don't really care for it. Yeah, and there's a lot happening in this film. Like, you've got the origins of one thing, you've got lots of mutants being introduced as part of this first class. You've got Eric, you've got Raven, and all this stuff going on. And then and then there's this plot line about missiles, and I don't really care.
Yeah, I think underpinned in every single X-Men movie is politics.
Yeah.
What they've tried to do in this one is include real life.
Oh, definitely,
in there, and how the mutants fit into that, and consequences and things like that.
Yeah, I like that. I like that part.
Yeah, I just don't think maybe the Cuban Missile Crisis was not the right way to go about it.
Yeah,
maybe
it was quite heavy, wasn't
different.
it? I like that it gave them their first mission. I like that, and I think that whole sequence really worked. But if anything, because it's set in the 60s, because of them saving humans, by consequence, they made themselves visible as mutants, and then also the villains. I like that was the origin of mutants being feared and hated, and how that sort of was at the same time the civil rights movements were about to kick off. Because I know we talked about that in the originals as well. It was all the social metaphors and stuff. I like that, but the actual history of which colonel in the military, or which Russian general, and I just didn't really.
It's got an interesting tone, this movie, because, like you said, it's set in the 60s. It's got like a mix of tones, like it's this darkness with very deep themes, but then there's this alternate, like very funky 60s vibe. But it's very mixed,
definitely.
Which I think works for the movie. It needed to have the important serious themes in there. But obviously they've tried to make it light and fun as well, and really make the most of the time period that they're in.
Xavier's character's quite key to that, I think, because he starts off really not what you'd expect at all. He's this playboy, he's obviously a professor,
Loves
very clever
himself.
and likes mutants a lot. I don't know if I like him in this one.
Yeah, no, I don't think I like him very much in this one. I think with this as well, this film, very much the 60s, they made some interesting decisions. Like they did a few split screens and different things to mix it up a bit.
Another thing they did was every time they went, they do a lot of looking into people's brains and, things like that, but they do this kind of kaleidoscope, kind of fisheye lens thing, that was very 60s TV.
Yeah, and I think as well, this film, it doesn't just conform to simple storytelling. There's a lot of ideas in there, and for the most part, I think they're portrayed very well. But like we said, I think there's just too much.
Yeah, I agree.
In there, most of what they do well, but I think it's a problem of just having too much in there.
Yeah, to the point where your brain does shut off at certain bits.
Yeah,
you'd rather just watch them finding mutants, them finding out their powers.
Yeah,
and then using them at the end. I'd rather just have that.
So, have you got anything else to add?
The music. I remember coming out of the cinema and saying the music was brilliant. I remember coming out thinking that was great music by Henry Jackman. Especially things like when Magneto's turning the satellite, and at the end when he's lifting the submarine out of the water, it just sort of swells, and it's heroic and a theme for
really fits.
For him. Yeah. I'll reserve my last point because I think it's my favourite part, which leads us on to our favourite part.
I think for me, one of the bits I like the most is the training montage. I always like a good training montage.
Yeah.
But I just like to watch the development of them, enhancing themselves and learning how to use their powers.
Yeah, I do have one gripe with that, though, is the bit where Beast is running. Takes his shoes and socks off and runs with his monster feet. And he runs around the mansion in 5 seconds. It literally doesn't make sense. I just have to point that out. I counted. It didn't, no.
It didn't work for you that bit.
Well, the speed that he set off at couldn't have gone round in 5, because if he did, that would be his superpower, because that was Quicksilver shit. It's a good training montage, and it felt fun, and we like watching powers. One thing the original films didn't do enough of, potentially, maybe, is showing people just doing what they can do. We want to see it. Yeah.
There was a funny Wolverine moment as well. It was very short and sweet, but I quite like that as well. I was like, oh, it's Wolverine.
That's a semi-good link to what I'd say my favourite aspect is, and I think it is the different ways it manifested, but ways that they would drop hints or Easter eggs as to what was going to happen, in the future. There are funny ones like the Wolverine bit, but I like the things, little nods to Xavier's hair. Next thing you know, I'll be going bald. And there's a bit where Mystique is flirting with Magneto, and she changes into the form of Rebecca Romijn, who played the original Mystique. I think that's quite good. He drops William Stryker in there a few times.
Yeah. So you like the fact that it linked so much with the original?
Mostly just the origin stuff, like where the helmet came from, the X-Jet, the mansion, how they made Cerebro.
Yeah.
So I liked a lot of that.
Absolutely.
Moving on,
yeah.
A sequel and a prequel, Days of Future Past.
Yes.
Unusual.
It's such an interesting plot. Like it's just so clever.
Yeah.
It's so clever.
It's a time travel film, really, isn't it?
Exactly what you said about being your favourite part there is my favourite part of Days of Future Past, is the link between the old and the young. Basically, I love seeing the characters as they are.
Yeah.
Because for me, they're the characters. That's the X-Men.
Oh, yeah. And it does work. I do believe they're the same people. Within the realm of the story, I believed it.
Yeah.
Which is testament to the casting.
Yeah, they have done a good job with it.
Yeah. So the story on this one, then, really, I like the opening. It's quite terrifying, and we get the voice of Patrick Stewart back, which is nice to hear. And there's this almost post-apocalyptic world, which I'm pretty sure is set pretty much in 2021 or 2023 or something. So it's not far off, any minute now. And it's the last surviving mutants in the world who are being hunted by these robot sentinels. The classic.
Terrifying, absolutely terrifying they are.
Yeah. And they've hatched a plot to go back in time, or at least send someone or their consciousness back in time to prevent the robots from being made because they got Mystique's blood. And on paper, it doesn't sound that good, but it is.
It sounds really complicated.
Yeah.
If you start going into it, well, they did this and they do this, but it's so well put together, and I really feel like they raised the stakes for this one. The opening scene, I absolutely love. I think it's brilliant. It shows how imperative it is to succeed.
Yeah.
That everything looks completely bleak. You absolutely believe that there's only this one shot.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
They've got this one chance to do it, and that's it. And I think they really portray that well.
And again, some of the mutants have survived, we've not seen since X-Men 3, but seeing Iceman do his famous skidding on ice.
I was so upset when I watched that because you don't know what's happened. You just think that it's all happening as it is. You don't realise that they're going to go back and they'll reappear. You're just like, oh my God.
Yeah, he gets his head stomped on.
I was absolutely devastated, sat there like that.
As we know, the franchise doesn't shy off from killing some of the best loved characters.
No, it does not.
But like I say, we don't know for how long, but they've been preempting the attacks and then managing to send consciousness back in past. This was Kitty Pryde's power that was never mentioned before.
Just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I will say it now. Potentially my least favourite part, in that it was just random, and as a result, it made the future section feel a little bit.
Do we know if she had that in the comics?
I can't remember. I have a feeling it's not her character,
right?
Or it was always her power. The films just never looked at it.
Yeah, but either way, it really should have been something that they've mentioned.
Yeah, it just felt a little bit afterthoughty, in the same way that in X-Men 3, the death of Xavier wasn't really touched on, and he's suddenly alive in this one. Obviously, I know what happened, and that there was a post-credit scene that alluded to what had happened.
Yeah.
It's a shame because the future section is kind of what we rely on to be good already, but there were some bits that they just didn't quite fill in the pieces.
I think with this one, and it's very much the same with First Class as well, is what it does to show us the characters that we think we know. We just touched on it in the last one. It shows us so much more, the depth development. We see them as we've never seen them.
Yeah.
And this is what makes them the people we know later on. There's so much character development in these films.
Yeah.
You really, really get to know these characters. And that's one of the things I like the most. You can totally understand how they became them. You think, oh, yeah, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's not as if we're just seeing 4 consecutive years. We're seeing decade at a time.
Yeah.
This one, I think, was my favourite version of Xavier. Not overall, but of the prequels. Him in the 70s, he's lost everything. He's lost the use of his legs, even sacrificed his power just to have his legs back. He's lost Raven. His friendship with Eric's gone out the window. He's in prison. He's lost everything, and I think that was the most human we've seen him. Even though he is quite a grounded character, he's an alcoholic in this one. That was my problem with Xavier in the past, that he was just too goody two shoesy. I liked seeing him broken.
This was a shock. Seeing him like this was a shock, because you never wait. I mean, when you think of him, you think Patrick Stewart, calm, collected, and then you see him like this and you think, wow.
Yeah, and he says himself, doesn't he? I was a very different man back then.
Yeah.
But in a way, and it works well for his character arc, it gives him a place to then make a comeback.
Yeah.
That aspect of hope comes back, and that's what all the characters are feeling.
He has such a great arc in this film.
It's brilliant. Magneto, I feel he's got that really strong foundation, but he does sort of flit around a bit between his allegiances.
This is it. Yeah, that was my exact issue with him. In terms of a character, I really, really like him as a character. He just seems to be good, bad, good, bad, good. It's make your fucking mind up. What do you believe in?
Yeah. I think it's that thing of he is fundamentally good.
Yeah,
he can't shake that feeling. Yeah,
he straddles the line very much.
Yeah,
and I think he's ruled by emotions. So it's people like Charles that have to pull him back and say, "Look, remember this," and he'll be like, "Oh yeah, okay, I'm good."
Yeah, but quite often though, it's not. How do I put this? It's other things or even humans that trigger it every time.
It's outside
it's history
influences.
That repeats itself. Yeah, so obviously the Auschwitz and Holocaust beginnings, and then even in this, he was blamed for killing JFK, and actually he didn't. He saved JFK, but it didn't matter because metal was involved. He was around. must have been him, put him in prison. Speaking of JFK and the history that was woven into this one, because now we're talking 70s, that revelation that JFK was a mutant and Magneto was trying to save him, I like that. That's cool. And then right at the end of the Vietnam War and the Paris Peace Accords that were going on, I really like how that was grounded in that.
Yeah. Again, yeah, like I said, it's complete. It really feels grounded in a real world. And again, politics play a huge part in that, and the decisions that mutants are forced to make.
Yeah, I liked the villain, although he doesn't come across as your conventional villain, played by Peter Dinklage, called Bolivar Trask.
He's just good in everything, isn't he?
Yeah, he is actually. Yeah, he's really good. I like how he kind of manipulates governments.
Oh, God,
I'm going to say government because he also goes to the Vietnamese to say,
to understand things his way.
Yeah, I like how he bribes the president in saying, if you don't invest in my Sentinel program, you would have lost 2 wars in one lifetime, and you won't want that now, would you? You know what I mean? He's kind of playing everyone against each other. It's all for his own gain, and he doesn't really hate mutants. He says he just wants to use them.
I wish there was just a little bit more in terms of his character. What's his
motivation?
His drive? His motivation. Why does he feel this way?
That he was just so fascinated that he was willing to capture and kill them and study them and use them for science.
But why? For what reason? Like what reason do you want to do that? It just kind of, somebody doesn't just decide that that's how they feel. There's got to be it stems from something, from somewhere. And
I don't know if the fact that the character had dwarfism, I don't know if that was a part of it. They didn't explicitly say that.
Yeah, they should have maybe made even just a small thing to do with that. Then I just feel like that's missing. It's probably the thing that's the most missing from the film. I think is just that motivation.
I have a similar argument for the next film. We'll get to that. So, we didn't mention Wolverine's back, by the way. He's the one whose consciousness gets sent back. And in the past, I've been a bit like, Wolverine again, but he does add something here.
He can be a little bit annoying in like the first ones, like after this whole thing about Jean. God, I really got annoyed by that. It's just like, I don't know what you're seeing in her. And I think he can be a bit bullheaded, but in this one, I think it's probably like one of the best iterations of him in the series.
It ties into that, the high stakes of it all. He's not just doing it because he's been dragged along, and
he actually feels for the cause, and he's a lot wiser, I think, in this one. He's got a lot more years on him, and he's obviously learned a lot. And you can see that. You can see like Charles's influence on him.
Again, it's that desperate situations bringing out the raw humanity in people. I like the line where he's I think he's shouting at Magneto on the plane, and he's saying, I've seen a lot of people die, good people, and you think, he has got a heart. The other big character I'd say we get introduced to here is Quicksilver, who has arguably, I'd say, the best scene in an X-Men film. Nightcrawler's is close in X-Men 2, and it's still very good, but I think overall this scene where they break Magneto out of the Pentagon is kind of genius.
It's an amazing moment. Not only is it a great introduction for a character, but it really shows what the movies can do. In terms of like special effects and things, it really shows where we're at, what can be achieved.
And still funny, do you know what I mean? That they're able to still get that kind of campy comicness about it.
We'll come on to that a little bit more later, I think.
Exciting. One thing I noticed here as well, the original X-Men theme was brought back. So this is Bryan Singer directing, who did the first 2. And I do think that adds something as well. There's something exciting about that theme. Yeah. I did like that.
I think in terms of quality, this is probably the best put together X-Men film.
Yeah.
And we said before, 2's very close. But I think this one, the special effects, the character development, the arcs, the script in general, and how they've put the whole storyline together, I think this really does take first place.
Yeah, I think so.
I think for me, my favourite part of this one is the moment with the 2 Charleses.
That's a good moment, yeah.
I really love that. That's
really
like
good.
2 amazing actors head to head.
And that speech of hope.
Yeah, it's so pivotal to what changes the film, what changes Charles as a character.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. And Patrick Stewart is just, incredible.
Like Ian McKellen, he's got that voice, hasn't he?
He was born to play that part. Yeah. Seeing them in both together in this, because they were a lot older, and I think there's something about Magneto. It's like part of him's broken in this one. He's getting towards the end.
And I think he's realised all along that they should have stuck together. You know, it's never that they weren't friends.
Yeah.
You could tell they always had that connection. It was never going to go anywhere. But these are two people who have lived a very long life and had a lot of beef, and and been through a lot. And it was like an old married couple at the end. You know, they hold hands at the end and say, you know, what was it all for? Because they think they're going to die together. It's lovely and sad. I'd say my favourite bit, I kind of have to see, the Quicksilver scene. I remember seeing it the first time and thinking, oh, X-Men's back. What about your least favourite from Days of Future Past?
Oh, that's really hard for this one. I suppose the beginning, when Wolverine first goes back, I suppose is just a bit. It's a bit of a lull. You know, he's just in this random bed with someone, but I mean, God, we're talking like small, tiny. Because I think for the most part, this is an almost perfectly sequenced film. They've put it together so well.
Yeah, and for me, like I said, just some aspects of the future just could have been fleshed out more. And I feel like it's only until like the last 45 minutes where we start doing a lot more cutting to and from the two storylines. I think the future bit gets forgotten about a little bit. However, there was a different cut of the film where Rogue was in it, and there's a sequence with rescuing Rogue. And
you just see her at the end, don't you, in that last scene. Do you know, actually, that might be the bit that upsets me the most. I'm changing my answer.
Okay.
I was really happy that Bobby and Kitty were together. I just thought that was really nice. That's lovely. They had this nice relationship, and then change the future, and he's with Rogue again. I was like, what the hell? Why?
I had a realization that some of the younger mutants in the future, like Bobby, Rogue, Kitty Pryde, knowing that they were about to change history back, they potentially could have just been erasing themselves from history. You know, they weren't alive in the 70s.
Yeah.
So what they were doing was really selfless.
Absolutely, yeah. I've never thought of that before.
Anyway, so that's good. Speaking of the ending, so it's important here that we mention where the film leaves us. So the original timeline has been not restored, it's been reset.
Yeah, it's complicated, isn't it? But it justifies every move they make from this point.
Yeah. So we know that in the new timeline, you've got to forget now everything that ever happened up until the end of Days of Future Past, I suppose.
Basically,
never happened.
The first three movies, the original X-Men movies, the future is not going to take place like that.
No, although we do see the characters that we're familiar with. You know, we see Scott back, and we see Jean back. And we see, Hank McCoy, Beast. He's back.
But their future could be anything now. So it gives the filmmakers license to go anywhere, do anything because they're not limited to what these characters were doing at that time in the original movie. So I can see why they did it.
Young Xavier at the end says the past, a new and uncertain world. You don't say. This is where things get a little bit messier.
Yeah.
We said this was a divisive prequel series. So next we get X-Men Apocalypse. So as you say, like the future's now rewritable, sort of. Still Bryan Singer directing.
Yeah. I think this one gets a bad rap. I really do. I don't think it's as bad as it's made out to be. I actually quite enjoyed this one.
I think certain bits, if they were removed, would improve the overall quality. But I think there are bits that, and too many bits have been just put in, and I don't know why. I just don't know why they've done it. So this one, plain and simple, the first known mutant in the world gets betrayed at the beginning in ancient Egypt. Then he comes back. He wakes up in the present day and he's not happy with future people.
He's brought back by people who believe that he's someone to follow.
Like a god, yeah.
Yes.
And he's not happy with the state of the world in 1982 or whatever it was. And he decides, you know what, I'm going to tear it all down and do it all again or something.
Pretty much.
Not
he's going
really
to
sure
destroy
why.
everything.
Why don't you just fly to a different planet and do one there? Anyway, so we're with the old, the new, the new cast, the young cast
characters. Yeah,
they start blurring into one, don't they?
This is almost an origin as well, because we're in a different generation now, so it's the origin story of Jean and Scott and Storm.
Yes.
You know, it's a new generation of origin story. So again, you're getting themes that are quite similar from First Class.
Yeah, and the school is more of a thing now as well. You know, the school's kind of up and running and actually working. Where in the 70s they'd all been sent off to Vietnam and things like that. So this is the first time we've seen the
school
working
as it was going to be.
Yeah, and I do like that aspect. I do.
I'd love to go to that school.
Yeah.
It's mega.
I don't know where to start on this one, really. Maybe start with the good things, if there are any.
So, well, I mean, starting from the beginning. So, said it's an origin. The very, very beginning, that first scene, when you actually see Apocalypse, you know, and you're introduced to him and him being, you know, betrayed and all that, I just can't get on board with it.
No.
It's just so less realistic than the rest. Like everything else in the I know we're talking about mutants and superpowers essentially,
but it's quite real.
But it just doesn't feel the same. The others are grounded in a reality in the real world, and
I think it's because we just didn't get any context to what this scene was really
it's
about.
just like, oh right, so they see the sun and all of these little gold things go down this triangle, and then they go up into this guy, and then it's just like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
and
what?
I think we get it, but we're not made to care about it.
Even in the first X-Men, what Magneto is trying to do, it's based in science.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, but this is just otherworldly. This is like magic, and it's like, I just cannot get on board with that. So that from the beginning kind of sets me on the back foot. I did then enjoy, though, introducing the young primary characters, Scott and Jean and Nightcrawler. I really like their origins, and that takes it back to this grounded and believable situation, this environment that they're in.
That process of finding mutants that
are
maybe in trouble, taking them to the school. You know.
Yeah, so it's a mix for me, this one, because there are moments that feel completely unrealistic, like it takes me out of the story, but then it's grounded with these other moments that are very realistic and totally fit.
I see what you mean. Yeah. But again, it's the characters that are leading on that, really, isn't it? And it's just the scripting and the plotting that let the other bits down.
Yeah.
I guess talking on script, a risky story to bring to the screen, I think. It's called Apocalypse, you know.
Yeah.
If it's not epic, you've not done it right.
Yeah.
And I remember watching the trailer so many times, and I was so hyped, and this is right on the back of Days of Future Past, which was incredible.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you how many times I just rolled my eyes as if to say, really? Looking at the script and the dialogue itself, here's some direct quotes from the film. Someone's taken over Cerebro. To do what? To connect. Right, okay. Magneto's family die. And he's screaming at the sky, is this what you want from me? Is this
that
what I am? It's not subtle, is it?
Absolutely heartbreaking, though.
2 people killed with 1 arrow? Really? I was just like,
yeah, okay,
really?
Yeah, but just, I mean, think of it from the human element. Like, he's tried to be this good guy, to move on, to become, a different person and leave it all behind. He started this new life, and just that line when he's crying, "Not my babies." Oh my God, I just broke down. I just started sobbing. I was so upset for him.
So that problem of, the characters are great and the acting was great, but then the script and the plotting of it, the actual story of how it happened, why?
Yeah, I think my biggest gripe with this film is the script itself and the plot. There's just so many moments that I feel like are irrelevant. So they do make a joke at one point that the third movie being the worst, which I thought was very ironic.
Well, they were poking fun at the third one in the original series, but I don't think they realised they were actually going to end up poking fun at themselves. This third film was pretty crap. I
think for the most part, for me, I really, really enjoyed the first hour and 10 minutes. I was like waiting for it to get bad. I was like, I remember this not being that great, but this is really good. And it got to about an hour and 10 minutes. And the bit that changed it for me was the Quicksilver scene. It was a completely serious moment that was completely degraded by a scene that never should have been put there.
Yeah.
It was like it completely interrupted the tone that they'd made.
Yeah.
And I feel like from that moment, that's when the quality changed.
Yeah. I remember in the cinema being not even disappointed, I was gutted that they decided that was good.
Like, I mean, if that's a scene you want to put in there, fine, but it just didn't fit there. Why right there?
Awful.
I mean, you had such a serious moment. Havoc had just died.
Yeah.
The taken shot. It was so serious.
Yeah. It literally just disabled the world's superpowers, and then we watched a Quicksilver carrying a pug eating a pizza. It
totally
so
interrupted, and it really it just ruined that scene for me completely.
They expect you in the very next scene to be sad when Cyclops' brothers died. I just shout out to him. Ty Sheridan, who plays Cyclops, I think did a really good job, actually, in all of the films.
Yeah.
For a character that was actually quite loved and was done dirty the first time around.
Yeah.
He just about pulled it back after that scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Quicksilver scene was horrific.
Yeah, as well for me in terms of scripting, like the whole Stryker kidnapping plot that follows that.
I wrote down, a helicopter must be William Stryker.
It's just completely irrelevant. It doesn't serve a purpose other than to expose us to the three kids more, which is really pretty unnecessary at that point because they're going to be in the finale.
Yeah,
it's completely irrelevant. There's so many bits in there that don't need to be there.
I've got many more. The Caliban scene, getting mutants passage, just no context given whatsoever.
Yeah, there's no need
other
for
than
it.
Introducing Psylocke, which leads me on to Psylocke and Angel. Why couldn't they have just had Magneto active with his Brotherhood of Mutants, like 3 others, and Apocalypse finds them all and turns them into Horsemen? Brilliant. We know who the characters are then.
And there's a few there's other moments where just what they've tried to do is put comedy into the film, but they've put it in the wrong moments. Towards the end when you've got Moira McTaggart and Charles, moment
what was
that
her
they're
point
having
in this film?
It's interrupted by Nightcrawler sitting up and yelling.
What did I miss?
So it's this really nice moment again, just interrupted by this stupid comedy that makes it silly.
Another one, they'd hinted at it in Days of Future Past, and that was enough. That was funny. But the link between Quicksilver and Magneto, he's probably Magneto's son. That was a funny little quip in the first one. But in this one, they just keep trying to shoehorn in this whole Magneto is my father thing. It needn't have been said. It really didn't add anything.
It would have made a difference if he'd told him.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, he just chose not to, and then that was it.
It's why did you mention it then?
Another one, although I'd argue it's one of the better scenes in the film. Let's have a Wolverine scene. Not for really any reason.
Yeah,
didn't really
it was just
matter.
there.
It was great, and it felt like the quality of the original films, like that whole scene.
But again, why? What does it bring to the story?
Yeah.
Nothing.
We've had X-Men spin-offs for Wolverine. We saw all that. We don't need to see it again. So yeah, Caliban, Quicksilver scene, the father stuff, Wolverine, Angel and Psylocke, the William Stryker stuff. It just felt like a mess.
The first half of the movie for me really worked. I liked it. It was good. I was on board with it and had no problems for the most part. The second half, I just felt like they'd lost the way.
If anything, I'd say it's the opposite. As soon as they were in Egypt and there was a big final sequence, I think from there onwards that was fine. That worked in isolation.
Yeah, that was
quite
fine.
exciting.
That was fine. It's between the middle and the last act.
Yeah,
there's just bits in there that they're totally unnecessary and they bring nothing to it. And it's like you say, it makes it feel messy.
Yeah, this is why I gave it a 2.5 rating, because half of it was good and half of it was completely useless.
I gave it a 2.5 rating the first time I saw it. I actually raised it to 3.5 actually, because I enjoyed it a lot more than I was expecting to, and I think it was that first half and the actual characters themselves that pulled it up for me.
The issues with CGI in this one.
Yeah, no, you were very upset.
Just in general, there was no really particular moment. Obviously, the Quicksilver sequence was a big tell for this, but all the way through, there was just issues with and I'm not an expert, but the texture and the frame rate and the sharpness of all of the stuff and some of the green screen blending. There's a bit where they're all sat on a rock. It's just I know you're not in Egypt. I can just see that the background is fake, just all the way through, and you could tell that there was really no practical effects done. Everything was so CGI heavy.
It's a shame.
It just didn't feel right. It just didn't look right. And then the other thing I wanted to mention about the villain, just Apocalypse in general, I just didn't...
Yeah,
he's not imposing, really. He's not really that threatening until he shouts. I just don't get it.
The thing is, you can see some of the things that he can do. He should be a lot scarier.
Yeah.
Because when you think of you see the little scenes they have showing his power, It's almost infinite. He can do all of these things. He should be scarier.
Yeah, but he doesn't really do anything. The most he does in the film is move stuff. In the cartoons and the comics and stuff, he's massive, and the only time we see him massive is in a dream sequence thing where he's having a mind battle.
Yeah.
I did just say mind battle. There's just something about it,
Didn't quite work.
Yeah, and we just have a scene where Magneto has killed a load of policemen by putting the locket through their necks. In the very next scene, we see Apocalypse killing people by putting sand through their necks, and I thought, you're no different from, I don't believe you're any more powerful than anyone else. Why would you need the Horsemen in the first place? You just left them to do all the work while he had to lie down in a pyramid. Yeah, I wasn't best impressed, if I'm honest. Just overall, there was very little I could come out and say that I liked, apart from the fact that I just enjoy X-Men. There was nothing really that I could say. So for me, favourite bit, I don't even know what I've written there. I've just written the word wow. Wolverine. The Wolverine sequence. Sorry, it's an L and a V. Yeah, that was the best scene in the film.
For me, I think the bit I liked the most was the scenes showing Eric's new life, and obviously when that changes, I just thought it added so much more to the character of how he became what he became, because it's just it just added more pain to him.
Yeah.
So I think I quite enjoyed seeing that development, that character development for his character.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I think I would have liked to have had more of that. We're only just introduced to it when it's taken away, and I don't really like children. So, but yeah, I see what you mean. Least favourite, the Quicksilver scene. I think it's completely unforgivable. The placement of it, the content of it, the delivery of it, the fact that they tried to mimic what was already great in Days of Future Past, and they just made an absolute bomb. I just think it's utterly ridiculous. It makes me quite angry that they did that.
I think the worst bit for me is the Striker kidnapping. I just don't see the point of it at all. I thought it was completely irrelevant. It brought nothing to the plot. It didn't forward it in any way.
Yeah, other than to keep dropping, William Stryker's bad. It's like, well, we know that. We've seen him in every other film.
It was just not necessary for me. I just thought it was completely...
Like, it must be William Stryker.
Yeah, it's just completely irrelevant.
Yeah. Okay, so where does this film leave us? So we're on the cusp of what we know to become the 1990s X-Men, which is the most similar to the cartoon, from the 1990s.
Yeah, but doesn't really work because they're still younger than the original cast were in the 90s, which is a bit...
They should have done what they did with The Crown, and that age them up.
The thing is that they should have just kept it in the late 80s rather than make it the same timeline that it would have been in the original movies. Well, that doesn't work, does it? Because they're all still young, and Charles and Magneto are young, and it just doesn't work.
I like the idea, of 4 films, decade each. I like that, but it kind of doesn't.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't make sense at a certain point unless they change the actors. So the last scene we see is they're all in uniforms. Mystique's leading them. They're in the danger room, and the Sentinels, which ended up not being a thing, but
they're going to become X-Men.
Yeah, and Xavier's bald. They kind of get praised at the end of the last one as well, which is I've written here acceptance of mutants as heroes.
Yeah, the view of them changes again a bit.
So that leads us nicely into the last film, which is Dark Phoenix, which I'd only seen the once before in the cinema. It only came out 2 years ago.
Yeah, I don't have as much to say about this one, I have to say.
But I'm the same, and I think it's because it's not that bad.
It's not.
I think it's very consistent in its quality.
My overall thought for this movie is, why does it exist? I just don't think it brings anything to the series. It doesn't really move them forward much at all. It just kind of gets rid of people.
Cleanse and purge them.
I don't feel there's any development, really. Just don't see the point. And the fact that they've already done the Dark Phoenix storyline already.
Yeah, completely see what you mean. I think I've maybe looked at it the same way, but kind of differently. So because it's a self-contained story with not a lot of ties to the series, I think in some ways it does benefit from that. It is its own thing, and I think it was able to break away from some of the not bad habits, but some of the conventions of the other ones, a bit like some of the bad scripting.
They were able to do things differently.
Like yeah, and it had a bit more of an indie feel, and it was more of a psychological drama to it.
It didn't follow the same tropes as the first three movies did.
Maybe it's because I don't like superhero films, technically, traditionally that much. I liked how I didn't have to stress over timelines and who was who and what was the origin of what. I just liked that this was a story. I found myself more emotionally invested in this one, and I think it's because there was less focus on other bits and Easter eggs and extra scenes. I felt like it was undistracting or non-distracting.
Yeah, I found it very hard to get on board with this one, really. Because I just couldn't get past the feeling that it was a film that didn't need to be made.
Yeah.
For the most part, the characters are good. I wasn't keen on the idea of Jean's power being from space and the introduction of aliens to it.
Yeah, the alien bit is where I was very upset in the cinema.
Yeah, I mean...
That's what Marvel films do, the MCU do, and I thought, please don't do that. The
X-Men are grounded in gritty reality, and they think that they talk about the politics of the day and and how we see things and blah blah blah, and then they just put aliens in it, and even without that, I think the whole Dark Phoenix storyline, it's who Jean is as a person.
Yeah,
and the power that she has, and it's inside.
They could have cut out the aliens, and the story would have been unaffected, but better.
I feel like that power should be something that's within her, not something that she absorbed from space.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
I think my favourite moment from this is probably the battle on the train.
It's great, isn't it? I think the action in this film was actually pretty decent, and consistently good, and the effects that went with it, I thought were actually
I didn't like
awesome.
the battle so much before that, when they were going to get her and Magneto and Hank decided to kill her.
That to me echoed the X-Men 3 house.
Yeah,
scene.
That didn't really work for me. I wasn't overly keen on that.
Didn't really go anywhere.
But then when their allegiances change again and they all unite at the end on the train, that I thought was really good. That whole sequence really worked.
Mm-hmm. It's a long sequence because it goes from the street into the building, onto the train, into the air.
Yeah,
and you get to see people doing stuff, actual do some powers. I agree. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, I think that's my favourite part of it.
It's just on the line of visual effects. So I think the car crash at the beginning was really effective.
It was very well done.
I think the jet, all of a sudden, everything just looked a little bit better. I don't know what just consistently the quality of
everything.
The look
I think everything looked better than Apocalypse did.
In fact, it had a look, I'd even say.
It was a lot grittier film, I think, as well. It was very dark compared. I feel like when you look at Apocalypse, it's quite a light film.
It's very colourful.
Think of colour palettes.
It's very oversaturated.
Yeah. I have to admit, though, I feel like Dark Phoenix, it is extremely dark, dull, almost.
Oh, I quite liked it.
In its colour palette.
Yeah.
I think I prefer the brighter, more vivid from the first three.
Right.
Personally, but that's my completely personal opinion. I get more interested in the vivid ones. Yeah, I think you are the opposite.
More realistic, more character based. I think more realistic. One thing I'll say while we're on the topic of colours, the costume design in Dark Phoenix, love it. Not even I don't mean the uniforms. I just mean the clothes that people were wearing. These people, these X-Men have got style. Even Jean's got that long brown coat, and then Cyclops has got that nice grey jumper at one point, and it's just his belt sticking out. That's very nice. Xavier's got this nice green shirt over a black t-shirt. That's nice.
Admit, I hated his lilac top in Apocalypse.
Oh, awful.
I just really like that. It didn't work with hair. It didn't work.
Again, it's just like, let's make it really colourful. It's like it's an apocalypse. How colourful can it be? Oh dear. I just want to mention that the music was done by Hans Zimmer this time around. Which is a massive difference. So no X-Men theme anymore, but I think he really helped give it a sense of an identity and the character of the Phoenix an identity. I like that. And that the scene where Jean makes Xavier walk up the stairs is one of the most horrifying things.
But it was very realistic though. They didn't just make him walk. It was like somebody who couldn't use their legs was walking. It was really very realistic creepy, the way that they made it.
Yeah, and then the end of this it's not the ending. The voiceover makes it clear that this isn't the ending, but it's an ending, and we know at this point that Disney's bought the Fox rights and all that stuff. Is it worth just mentioning what we expect from the future of the X-Men as well?
Well,
at this point?
it's very hard to say because you know that they're going to be introduced to Marvel at some point, because that would be huge and such a moneymaker for the company. Then we know that at some point they're going to do that. How they do it is the question. Who do they go with? Do they go with the young cast? Do they go with the old cast, or do they go with
just completely left field?
New?
I think they may go completely left field and then eventually introduce a big person.
Yeah. We've also talked about doing Fantastic Four as well, so it depends who they decide to do first. Or
I think Fantastic Four's first.
Yeah, they've been very quiet about X-Men. I don't think it's something that they've got on the agenda right now.
I think that's probably wise though, isn't it? Because X-Men's so established. It's been around longer than a lot of the other superhero properties. The whole thing really with the Disney, I was obviously devastated, even though there was stuff obviously that was wrong with the franchise and that they continually got wrong. You know, the scripting and the spin-offs and the timelines, you know, there were just a few things that they always got wrong. And I wish that they could go back and rewrite. But I'd love X-Men. You know what I mean? I've always done that. And there's a big fear for me that they would undo a lot of the hard work and the groundwork that had been done.
See, I feel the opposite, because I think if you look objectively at Marvel, they have a really good track record. I think what they're able to do and the quality that they try to establish with the films that they bring out, and films that are obviously travelling over a long period, they have this amazing ability to do things like that, and they really are on top form. So I think that's exciting, because I think they've got the potential to be able to do some really great things there.
My hope is that they would just fix the kind of bittiness of it and they would look ahead.
What you would want from it is them to try and keep the X-Men style as it was at Fox.
Yeah.
You want to keep that style, but improve the bits that they know they can do better.
Yeah, I hope so.
If they can do that, then they've got a recipe for success, I think.
That's the other thing I don't want them to do. I know it's going to happen, but integrating them with the other superheroes, you know, the X-Men belong to a very specific world and a very specific, you know, mythos and
I don't think they'll introduce them to the biggest characters. Well, to be honest, I think a lot of the biggest Avengers characters have left now. I mean, there's not going to be an Iron Man. Captain America's gone. You've got no Black Widow either. So a lot of the characters I think have gone. I think the next stage of Marvel is going to be the characters that they haven't really had as the primary people, which would be an interesting way to introduce the X-Men, because you're not going to introduce them to a fully established group of characters like the first Avengers were.
Yeah.
It'll be more manageable, I think.
Yeah, I just don't want to have to watch all the Marvel films. They're just a bit repetitive. Quality of filmmaking's fine, but there's so many of them now, and they all follow the exact same template all the time. To
a point, but I think what's interesting about them is they've tried to go for a different tone, a genre. So you've got ones that are more like a conspiracy spy one. Then you've got ones that are a totally different tone altogether, a different genre even. You know, and so they try to mix it up so they don't feel the same, and it does work, I think, for the most part. So it'll be interesting what they can bring.
I'm very, very, I mean, and I have been since they announced it, but I've been very, very sceptical about the whole thing. I'd rather they just ended X-Men and that was it.
Yeah.
But I know that's never going to be a thing. So talking about our top 5 characters then. We did the same in the original episode. I'm going to sneeze. It's gone. Okay.
Yeah, so this time we're only talking about the prequel characters. So
yeah, anyone who was introduced in 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Give me your whole list. 5 to 1.
Okay, so number 5 for me is Raven.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure why. I feel like I should like her more, but I don't.
I get that.
Can't put my finger on it. There's just something that stops her being higher up on the list.
I get the feeling that Jennifer Lawrence didn't enjoy doing the films.
Yeah,
I think sense from her.
Well, I think by the time you get to Phoenix, the only reason she was killed off is because she didn't want to do it.
Yeah,
there's no way I think they'd have killed that character off.
There's just no energy anymore in her performance.
Yeah, the first one she was fine. Even the second one, she was great. But I feel like she wanted to move on and do other things
Yeah.
by that point. My number 4 is Nightcrawler.
Oh, okay.
I just really like that character, and I think they cast it really well. I can imagine him becoming what he is really seamlessly. More so, I think, than any other character. I can see him becoming the older version so well. And I just think, as a character, he's got such a lovely centre. He's got a really good heart.
Until he unleashes at the end of Dark Phoenix, which was really exciting.
But it was provoked with good reason. It was for the good of someone. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think we've ever seen him killed before in any of the films. So for him to be like jabbing his tail into people's neck and killing people with necks is a thing in these films.
Yeah, it is. It's just an easy way to go, you know. And then number 3 for me is Hank. I just really like his character. I think the Nicholas Hoult was really well cast. I like his arc as well, starting from this nerdy guy to actually having some confidence in himself and his abilities and who he is, and he helps a lot of the characters become who they are. I mean, he gives Scott his glasses, and you know, and for just as one example, and he's kind of pivotal to Charles being who he is as well. He's like his right hand man. Speaking of which, Charles is my number 2.
Okay.
Like we said earlier, I just think there's parts about him I just don't like.
Yeah, but I think we have to not like him at points, don't we?
The first one, he's hard to like as much, and moments where you just think you've made the wrong decision there and you're not making the right choices. But that's great for a story arc, you know, for his character development. That's fantastic. But number 1 for me, hands down, is Magneto.
Okay.
I think Michael Fassbender was absolutely
most
perfectly cast.
I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Perfectly cast. I can't say that I see him seamlessly turning into the Ian McKellen version. It's not necessarily that, but I just think his portrayal of the character and who he is at that particular time is brilliant. And Michael Fassbender like portrays like those serious, really emotional moments better than anyone else.
Yeah, it's a good choice.
You can really feel it when he's showing that.
Yeah. Okay, my number 5, I've gone with Quicksilver, excluding Apocalypse.
Only his first appearance.
And with Dark Phoenix. I think he was fun in that
Dark
too.
Phoenix, I love when he came back at the end of them helping out. He was like, it was mostly me. Jean did a little bit, but then it was mostly me.
I just think, from that perspective, he does bring a lot of, not even just laughs, just a lot of joy and energy and character to the film. I like that.
Yeah.
So I've put him at number 5. Number 4, I've gone with Charles Xavier, who I don't think made my top 5 in the last one. With this one, I think because it was more complex and he wasn't always likeable.
You can clearly see the arc of him changing over time.
He's radically different in each era, isn't he?
I think James McAvoy does a great job.
Yeah, I think so. I've got to say the 70s version is my favourite. Even when they flash back to it in Dark Phoenix, I'm like, I like that version.
Yeah,
with the long
I have to agree with that, yeah.
You like it because he's got long hair, I get it.
I do, it's true, I do.
He's got this Anakin vibe about him.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, it is partly to do with the hair.
Moving on. Number 3, I agree, Hank McCoy, Beast. Pretty much the same reasons as you, really. I like how we see different facets of his character, but all part of one arc.
Yeah.
The nerdy scientist, and then a bit of romance, a bit of heartbreak. He has problems with his power. He learns to control his power. At the end, he's leading the school at the end of Dark Phoenix. And
he becomes a great person.
Yeah, I like that. I don't know what people feel about this. Number 2, I've actually put Cyclops. I don't know if it's because the films weren't as good that he was in, but I do genuinely think that of the characters that were introduced of that new generation, he was the most sort of consistent, sort of arc-wise. I think it got to a point where whenever he was in the scene, you wanted to watch him. You know, you believed him. There was times where he was with James McAvoy and it was him who was the centre of the scene and calling the shots.
Yeah, I would say Cyclops was given the best time.
From an emotional perspective as well, like his stuff with Jean,
his
stuff with Havoc, there's his stuff with, quite a few different things. And like I said, there's times where he stands up to Xavier and goes against what he says, and you start seeing him grow into that leader that we know Cyclops should
that
be.
he's going to be.
And I think, given that some of the films this guy was in weren't that great, I think he did actually
still
really
was able
well.
to pull something off. Yeah,
even like after that horrible Quicksilver scene, it's him that brought it back around, like I said earlier. And I could see him as the character, believe it or not. From what I saw, I was satisfied that he would have carried on doing a good job of that.
Yeah.
I like that. And number 1, Magneto, again.
Yeah.
Performance-wise,
we actually agree.
The best. Even though his allegiances kept changing, I just think we had at least the context from First Class to know why he seesawed quite a lot between good and bad.
The character development for his character is brilliant over the series.
It always has. It's one of the best written comic book characters. Yeah. It's so simple.
Yeah. But effective. So effective.
So yeah, nothing really else to say on that.
Well, there we go. So we are now, at this moment in time, we have completed all of the X-Men movies.
Apart from the spin-offs.
Maybe we'll, apart from the spin-offs, maybe one day we'll be able to come back and do some more, because there might be new X-Men movies.
Probably not for a very long time. But
in 10 years' time.
10 years' time, a reunion. Do you remember episode 28?
That was quite Patrick Stewart like that.
Many years ago. Oh, funny. So, what do we usually do at the end? This felt like a very long episode, but I liked it.
We usually do a recommendation.
We do, yeah. Let's do.
I would say if you're going to watch one of these, it's got to be Days of Future Past.
Good shout. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Really good film. I'm not going to recommend an X-Men film, although I would say give Dark Phoenix another try. If you watched it the first time and thought, no, I'm going to go with the film that I would have recommended last week had we not been on multi-narratives, and that's the new Netflix animated film, The Mitchells versus the Machines. Ah, yes. It's just so funny.
I haven't watched it yet, but I'm going to get around to it.
It's really, it's really quite good. It's the same team who did Into the Spider-Verse, so it's that kind of style where it's kind of a blend of like hand-drawn and CGI, and it's like someone's gone around with a fine liner and added extra bits in. You've got all sorts of things popping up, and it's very 21st century social media-y, but it's funny and it's a good family story. I didn't cry, honestly. So yeah, I'm gonna recommend that.
Okay. So, Matt, where can they find us?
Yeah, well, you can, if you want, find us on our website, cinechat.co.uk/podcast, or across social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, search for Cinechat Podcast. Or if you wanted to, if you really, really want to, you can email us at
podcast@cinechat.co.uk.
Just gathering dust, people. Any day now. Okay, so next time...
This is where it gets big.
This has been a long time coming.
It's so exciting.
Not 1 episode. Not 2 episodes.
Not even 3 episodes.
We're doing a 4-part Harry Potter
extravaganza.
Expelliarmus.
That's the only word you can use for this. Extravaganza.
Yeah. So we're going to be reviewing... I say reviewing. It's probably going to be a gush/gripe fest of the Harry Potter films. 2 per episode. With a bit of a running theme to bookend each pair. So in the first episode, we're going to be looking at the transition of page to screen from the books to the film. And in keeping with that, we're also going to have a look at our favourite deleted scenes from the films as well, which are all on YouTube. They're all over the place. And some really good ones as well that got taken out. So yeah. Looking forward to this for a long time.
Yes, this is going to be really exciting. This is just going to be like absolutely so much fun. I mean, who doesn't want to sit and watch Harry Potter?
There's so much to say about them, and there's so many opinions about them, Even if you think they're the best films in the world, there's still a lot that, didn't go right. Yeah, didn't go right. Choices that weren't great, They were improvising them as the books were still being written in some place,
It's going to be exciting.
A reflection,
it's going to be exciting. We are beyond excited.
Yeah,
so
really
look out for those, because they are going to be epic episodes.
All
really
across
looking forward
June
to them.
and July. They'll be coming out. So
it's the summer of Harry Potter.
Yay! Cool.
Doesn't get better than that.
No, it doesn't.
Okay,
really.
So on that note, that exciting note, it's bye from me.
It's bye from me.